Hello guys and welcome. Let me introduce myself. My name is Rishabh Jain. I am certified public accountant. Uh, this video is specifically related with one of the elements of OBB, which is one big beautiful bill. Now the main objective of this video is just to share the knowledge. The reason being why I'm making this video is that there are a lot many changes that have been taken into one big beautiful bill, and I thought to make a small video sharing my knowledge with all of you folks who are there into US taxation industry. And maybe you guys might have already read through the entire OBB bill. Probably you might be working around it, maybe doing your own research on this element. Some of them are already have gone through their CPEs, and they're very much acquainted with the new changes that are going to take place from year 2026. That is from starting in year 2025, when you are going to prepare those returns in 2026. All those amendments, all those changes you have already been understood, and now you are ready to prepare those returns. However, people like me or some other people who might not be able to go through those CPRs, or they are just new or fresh into this industry and they are not updated. So for those people, I'm making this video. This is completely a knowledge based, free sharing of knowledge kind of thing. There's no objective behind it, so feel free to watch this video throughout the end. This is also, I would like to mention, this video is not the entire explanation of OBB bill. This is one of the element that we are going to discuss. It might take a little bit of extra time in explaining something, because there were so many elements that I have to figure it out from lot many sources, and then I have to combine it and pull out the entire summary for you guys. So the video or the topic that we are going to discuss is for the tips. Now tips tip is one of the most hot topic that I what I can see right now, that is into the market. And I'm sorry, I'm having some cough and cold, which is one of the most hot topic in US taxation industry. And there are a lot many information, number of elements which are completely not being addressed as of now. So I'm trying to address all those elements. I hope you like this videos, and I hope you like this video and you can enjoy and understand the entire concept. What are the changes which are there in one big beautiful bill? Along with that, what are the changes that are being brought together for the tips? Okay, so let me share my screen and then we can walk through the entire concept. I hope you enjoy this video. Again, this is just for the informational purpose, nothing else. So I believe you can see my screen over here. And yes, if you can see my screen, I hope, let me enlarge it and then see what's going to happen. Perfect. Now I think you can see my screen. Let me recheck it so that, yes, perfect. So this is the entire summary of the tip. Now this entire summary is not the entire crux. Maybe just by the looks you might find it that this is what we have to understand. No, this is not going to happen. There are so many elements that we have to discuss, then only you will be able to understand the entire synopsis or entire crux of the tips which are being or I can say what are the changes that have been brought because of this one big beautiful bill. So that this is true, that no tax on tips. Is it true? I would say no. This is not going to be 100% truth, because there is one capping that has been provided, of that has been kept on the tips. Now, the first thing first that we have to understand is that, let me share the entire scenario or entire notes that you can go through later on. You can request it. I can share it with you whenever you like. Okay, so now the first thing is that we have to understand that the tip is not completely exempted. Okay, this exemption, or I can say this treatment, is an above the line treatment, where what you have to do, first thing first, the thing that you have to keep in your mind is that all your tips are taxable, on which your federal payroll taxes are applicable. your social security tax is applicable, as well as your Medicare taxes are applicable. So what is the meaning that no tax on tip? So the government, they said this thing that now any tip that you have earned throughout your throughout the year, that won't be taxable up to $25,000. That means when those tips are being reported, or whenever your employer has identified that this much amount of tip has been received by you, he is going to withhold the federal payroll, federal taxes. He will be deducting your social security or as well as your Medicare taxes. This is going to happen. But now when you are going to file your income tax return, which is your form 1040, at that point of time you will be taking a deduction. Now this deduction is specifically your above the line deduction. So what we have understood from this point of view, first thing first, just like your we have one element which is called as municipal bond interest. So now we have to report it into our income tax into our returns, but these are not taxable. Contrary to this concept, on tips, your tips are going to be taxable. However, you can take a deduction at the time of filing your return. Okay, so this is the first important point that you have to take care. Whether you are working as a preparer, or whether you are working as a reviewer, or you are reviewing the returns, do please make sure that you are analyzing the things very, very carefully. Let me show you why I'm saying so. If you can see over here, the core purpose of OBBA is to introduce a new above the line deduction under IRC section 224 for qualified tip income. Okay, so what exactly is the qualified tip income? Now the thing is that when we say whenever we talk about the tip, it is not like that all your tips are going to be you can take the deduction of this 25,000 on every single tip that you are going to have, or that you are going to earn, or that you are going to receive. No, that is not possible. Only qualified tips are eligible to take this deduction. Okay, now from which year this is going to take place? Effective from tax year 2025 through 2028. So from 2025, 26, 27 and 28, 4 years you will be eligible to take this deduction of how much? Of $25,000. Is it going to be extended? I don't know. But as of now, if we talk about 2025, I believe this is going to be the maximum limit that we are going to have, similar to what we have in Schedule A. In Schedule A, we have a maximum state and local taxes deduction, which is around $10,000. Similarly to that, we will be having a maximum capping of $25,000 for the tips. Perfect. Second thing, now this is going to be a very important rule, or I can say important understanding that you have to keep in your mind. Listen and read this line very, very carefully. Though this is not extracted exactly from the Bare Act, it has been changed. The language has been changed a little bit for the better understanding, but this is the core essence of the OBB. The mechanism effectively reduces that taxpayers' federal income tax liability on their tips. It is crucial to note, however, that this relief does not extend to federal payroll taxes. All tip income remains fully subject to your Social Security and Medicare FICA taxes. So we are clear on this thing, that this is the above the line deduction. This is the first thing that we have to understand. Second thing, all your tips are fully subject to Social Security and Medicare taxes. This is the second element that we have to understand. Now I have tried to make it very, very clear in a very simple language that these tips are taxable, but you can take a deduction out of it. And how much is your deduction? The deduction amount is $25,000 in year 2025, or going forward 26 and 27 as well. Now what we are going to understand, first thing, we will be understanding the mechanism of this entire section, which is 224. Then we will understand what are the eligibility requirement. Then we will be understanding the reporting rules for both employer and employee, and then we will be understanding the practical compliance. I will be sharing you a couple of examples so that you can have a more better understanding how the tips is going to work, or how the tip calculations or everything are going to take place. There are few forms that are going to change, as well as there is one more form that is going to take place. Now, which are the forms that is going to be changed, and the additional new form that is going to take place when we are going to discuss or calculate about the tips. Okay, let's move ahead and understand what are the more changes that are going to be taking place. Okay, so what we have seen as of now, this is an above the line deduction. The maximum deduction is your 25,000 per return. The applicability year is 2025 to 2028, and eligibility filers, who are the eligible filers? Single, HOH, head of household, married filing joint. Wait a minute, there is one person that is missing. Can anyone guess it? I guess you might have guessed it right. MFS. So this $25,000 deduction is not available or is not eligible for those filers who are filing their return on a status which is called as married filing joint. So who are eligible persons? The eligible persons are single, head of household, and married filing joint. Now, uh, as of now, we are talking about the what I can say about the tips. There are more changes that have been taking place on your form 1040 itself, and when we will be discussing about that particular element, you will be having a more clarity how the things are going to take place, or what are the changes which are there on the form 1040. Now, MFS are not going to be eligible to take this deduction. Does this mean person single person is allowed to take a deduction of $25,000 for all these years? I would say yes, they are allowed, but not, this is not going to be their limit. Their limit will be curtained down to $12,500. So for the single filers, it would be the maximum deduction which these people, single filers, can take is around 12,500, whereas people who are HOH or married filing joint or even QSS, these people can take a deduction up to $25,000. Okay, so who are excluded filers? Your MFS are the excluded filers. Perfect. Now, one more important thing: can a person who is an alien, is he going to take these kind of deductions? I would say no. Only those person who are able to have a valid social security number, only these people will be eligible to take the deduction. For rest of the people, these people are not going to take place. Sir, so if someone is having like a TIN, can he take the deductions? No, that is not going to be possible. Only and only those people who are having a valid SSN, these people can take the deduction. Okay, now we have heard about one word that was qualified tip. Now what exactly this thing mean? Now qualified tip, this is as simple as that. Not every single person can get or take the deduction of $25,000. So if you are into a program, or I can say, let's say for example, I am a waiter. Okay, now as a waiter, I'm doing the waitering services, and I have received a tip from any customer, and I haven't requested it from those customer. Okay, first thing first, it should be volunteer. The tip that you are receiving, that should be volunteer, first thing. Second thing, it should be from directly from the customer. And third thing, which is even more important, that employer is not going to negotiate on that tip. That means uh, my employer, if I'm working as a what I can say, as a waiter or a bartender, and I have served a plate to my customer. My customer gave me only $10 as the tip. And all of a sudden, my employer came over there and he said, no, no, sir, this guy has done a wonderful service for you. He deserves at least a $50 tip for all those services. Now, if your employer is coming or interfering, or he has decided certain thing that at least the minimum tip amount is $25, the minimum tip amount is $50, or the minimum tip amount is $100, that at that point of time, these tips are not going to be qualified tip. On top of it, there's one more element. If you are into it, I hope you guys have seen this particular line in Indian context. If I'm saying service charge, you might have heard about this thing, service charge, which is around 18%. In Indian context, I'm talking about. We visit to a restaurant, and when the bill arrives, we can see that there is a service charge which has been mentioned, which is not mandatory, but still some of the restaurants, hotels, or clubs, they charge service for around like 18%. Now this is equivalent to the tip. Now, do remember, if a organization or a club or a party hall or a casino or whatever the thing is, well, or the restaurants, these people are straightforward charging anything in terms of service charge, this is also not going to be considered as a tip. Now, even if the entire amount, for example, if this entire 18%, which is a service charge, is going into my pocket, okay, my pocket at that point of time as well, this 18%, this 18% is not going to be considered as a qualified tip. So now what we have understood so far, if I'm walking into a restaurant and a waiter or a bartender walks towards me and he's providing his services, and I'm so super impressed that I gave him $100 to for the services that he has provided to me, or if I'm running in a casino, or I am playing some blackjack or something, or poker, whatever, wherever I'm feeling comfortable, and I'm giving tip to the dealer, okay, and the dealer, whatever tip I'm giving to the dealer, it is out of generosity, or I can say because he gave me some good cards because of which I'm winning. These kind of tips are going to be qualified, are called as qualified tips. Rest, if we are imposing such kind of tip to the customer, straightforward, we are enforcing it to the customer that your entire bill is around $1,000 and the service charge is around 18%. This 18%, which is $180, it is going straight away to the waiter who is serving you. Those kind of tips are not going to be considered as what? Qualified tip. I hope I was able to make it very, very clear. If the services, if the definition, let's read one thing. This definition explicitly excludes non-qualified mandatory service charges such as an automatic 18% gratuity added on the large parties. IRS treats these charges as regular wages, ineligible for the deduction. Guys, look over here, ineligible for the deduction, even if the employer distributes the full amount to the staff. So the payment must be volunteer. When we are talking about the tip, the amount must be determined solely by the customer. 10, 20, 12, 100, $1,000 tip, it is completely been decided by the customer, and the amount cannot be subject to the employer negotiation. Then only these will be classified as a qualified tip. Rest of them are non-qualified tip, and once these are being categorized as what? As a non-qualified tip, you cannot take a deduction of $25,000 on those tips. I hope I was able to make you clear what exactly is the entire scenario. Moving ahead, is there any kind of limitation regarding the way we are tipping the bartender or the waiter or whatsoever? No, there is no such kind of limitation. You can give them in cash, physical currency, personal check, debit and credit card, mobile apps, which is your QR codes, casino tokens, chips. If you are playing poker or something like that, and you are giving tip in terms of chips, even that is going to be considered as a tip itself. Digital currency, crypto. I'm impressed by some dealer where I have won so much of money in gambling, and I gave out of generosity, I gave him a cryptocurrency, a Bitcoin. Even that Bitcoin is going to be considered what? it is going to be considered as tip. Or in kind, if I am giving him or her, the waiter, a movie ticket or a pass to an Disneyland or some, so what, any kind of, so in short, any form of payment is going to be qualified as tip. Okay, now there is going to be an interesting element. So the interesting element that has been taken care by the OBB is that we might have heard about, I believe everyone has heard about SSTB, which is called a specified service trade or business. Now, what exactly is SSTB? I'm not going to get into much details. You guys are very much acquainted by this terminology, but I can tell you one thing. There are certain services which are coming under SSTB. Now, what are those? What are those services that are classified as SSTB? Let's go one by one. Health, law, accounting, actuarial services, performing art. Okay, let me circle over here why we are reading these all things, why SSTB came into picture. Okay, athletics, consulting, financial services, any business where the principal asset is reputation or skill of its employees. Okay, so I have circled out one element, and another one is the accounting. Okay, so now if you are preparing someone's return and you prepared a return in such a way that your taxpayer or your client is super impressed, you were able to save his around millions of dollars in tax saving, in tax, and he gave you around like $10,000 over and above your billings, he gave you as a 10,000 tip. Will it going to be considered as a qualified tip? Now, you are an accountant. Listen to me very, very carefully. You are an accountant. You prepared someone's tax return and you prepared in such an elegant manner. And you were able, just because of all your skills, experience, and you were able to save someone's millions of dollars in tax, in their tax liability. And he was so super impressed by you that on your billings, he gave you additional amount. Okay, additional amount. And he said that keep it as a tip because you have done such a marvelous job for me. Will that tip, which is around 10,000, oh, I'm sorry, which is $10,000, is this tip going to be considered as your what? As your qualified tip or not? I would say no. Why? Because if you are falling under specified service trade or business category under section 199A B, under 91A clause B clause 2 subclause 2, then you are, whatever money that you are receiving in form of tip, these are excluded from the category of tip, and you will not be able to get a deduction of $25,000. Let me repeat it one more time. This is going to be a very crucial point, because once you started preparing those returns, you will definitely find something like that. And if you or your employer, now even you have to hear this thing very, very carefully. If your employer is falling under SSTB, which is under specified services trade or business, then whatever amount you are receiving as tip as an employee will be ineligible for the deduction of $25,000. Let me tell you one more thing. Performance art, what in performance art, what are the basic categories that you can think of? A musician, okay, or a dancer, or an artist. These are the basic categories that are falling under performing art. Now, if you are doing as your own, at your own, you are not running any kind of business, or you are not employed by someone else, and you are getting some kind of tip at that point of time, this is only and only my understanding. What I can understand is that even if you are performing some kind of arts, okay, performing some kind of arts, which by the definition under what, under IRC section 199A, it is called as performing art, but still this is going to be a very important and crucial point. But still you can take a deduction, of $25,000. Okay, let me reframe it again so that it will give you a better understanding. Okay, let me tell you something like that. There I have made some table. Okay, this is going to be a very interesting part which will help you in understanding the complexities which are hidden in SSTB area. So let's say for example your employer is falling under category of what? SSTB. Okay, your employer is falling under SSTB and you are an employee over there on payroll, and just because of that you are receiving what? Sorry, your employer is a non-SSTB. Your employer, let me reframe it again, my bad. If your employer, now listen, if your employer is a non-SSTB, which means that he is not performing any of these kind of activities, or he is not falling under any of these kind of activities. Understood? If they are not falling under these kind of activities and they are considered as what? Non-SSTB providers. Okay, and you are employed over there on payroll, that means you are getting what? W2. You are eligible to take the deduction of $25,000. Perfect. Okay, now if your employer is falling under SSTB category, okay, and you are on payroll, that means you are receiving what? W2. At that point of time you will be ineligible to take the deduction, means whatever amount you are receiving in terms of tips, they are disqualified, they are not eligible to take the deduction of $25,000. I did not understand this thing. Let me take you one example. There is one pianist, so he is playing some piano on his own in an auditorium. Over there he kept a jar, and there he is putting all the people who are listening to him, they are enjoying everything. Now that concert or that theater did not hire that person. Okay, at this point of time whatever tip that pianist is receiving is eligible to take the deduction. That pianist or that taxpayer is eligible to take the deduction of $25,000. Second query or second scenario is that the theater is falling under the category of SSTB. Now that theater or the owner of that theater who is falling under the category of SSTB, he has hired that pianist on payroll basis, and that theater is giving him W2. Now, when he was playing that piano in the auditorium or the theater, people were so much engaged, they were so much happy because of the way he played the piano. They gave him a tip. Now, remember one thing, if your employer is falling under category of what? SSTB, and you are employed on payroll where you are receiving what? W2. In this scenario, you will be ineligible for the tips. Second point, if your employer is under SSTB category and you are not on their payroll, that means either you are receiving what? 1099 NEC, non-employee compensation. I can say independent contractor. Okay, if you are receiving any money, now your employer is what? An SSTB. However, you are not on payroll, you are just an independent contractor, and you receive tips from the crowd because of your performing, because of you are performing some kind of art. Maybe you are doing some ballet dancing, maybe you are doing some you're singing some song, and you were given tips by the crowd. At that point of time, those tips are qualified a tip, and you will be able to take what? You will be able to take the deduction of $25,000. And finally, all your casinos or your restaurants or your entertainment zone, these are not falling under SSTB. That means if your employer is also a non-SSTB and you are also on a non-payroll, that is you are receiving 1099 NEC, at that point of time you are eligible to take the deduction of $25,000. Perfect. So this is the scenario that if you are an employed and your employer is also a SSTB, then your tips are disqualified. But if you are working with an SSTB provider or service provider, but on not on payroll basis, you will be eligible to take the deduction of $25,000. I hope I was able to make you understand what exactly is going on over here. Perfect. Let me go through with one of the landmark case. Then that which is by the name. Like this is one of the most interesting case that has taken place in USA. Rainbow Tech Services Inc. Versus Commissioner provide critical insights into how broadly the IRS and the court interprets these categories. The tax code ruled that the business does not need to employ licensed professionals to be classified as accounting, okay, SSTB, accounting SSTB. The code reasoned that the services like bookkeepers and tax preparation are the foundational branches of accounting field. वापस है, let's see, the court reasoned that the services like bookkeeping and tax preparation are the foundational branches of the accounting field. The critical takeaway is that the working in a role that is the foundation of the listed STTB file disqualifies any individual from the tip deduction regardless of their specific titles or license status. In simple words, there was a case study or there was a court hearing where the Rainbow Tech Services, they said that we have multiple branches, and among them one of them is the accounting. However, you have mentioned, if we see over here, there is no such word as accounting or bookkeeping. Bookkeeping, there is no such word over there. The court said that even though, sorry, my bad, accounting word has been mentioned. I'm really sorry for that. Accounting word has been mentioned. There is no word as such bookkeeping. Okay, now in that scenario, a court observed that accounting and bookkeeping are one of the same thing. If you can see over here, there is no such word as tax preparation. Okay, now though tax preparation has not specifically been identified as SSTB, but the court said that it is the branch of accounting. And due to which, if you are working as a tax preparer, and you have received any kind of tip while preparing the tax return, these tips are not going to be qualified tips. These all will be non-qualified tips. Why? Because the accounting includes, or this tax preparation is one of the branch of accounting, and because of the same reason, if you as a tax preparer receives any kind of tip, these are taxable completely. You will not be getting any kind of exemption out of it. And I'm really sorry, I have mentioned one word, accounting, though it has been mentioned. I just got a little bit confused. Okay, now there, as I have mentioned, that there are so many changes that has been brought into the picture. One of those changes is your W2, and second one will be your schedule 1A. These are going to be changes. Now W2 for the year 2025 does not have any changes, and from 2026 there will be some changes. Now what are those changes? I am going to show you in some time. Okay. So treasury tipped occupation code, this is a system that has been identified. Now if you are working in any of these categories, now you do not have to remember, because all of our softwares have or will be incorporating all those kind of codes just like a regular basis, so we do not have to remember. Let's say for example, if you are a bartender or a waiting staff or a cook or a dishwasher, so which code is going to be applicable for you? 100s. If you are a plumber and if you are receiving any kind of tip for your home services, at that point of time, which code is going to be relevant for you? 400. Now why I am telling you these codes, what is the relevance of these codes, we will be understanding in just moment of time. Let's say for example, a gambling dealer, you are into a casino and you are giving tips to a dealer. At that point of time, which code is going to be relevant? It is going to be 200s. Now let me take you to somewhere else. Just a second. Transition period. Don't worry, I'm going to tell you the phase out as well. There is phase out. It is not like that we do not have the phase out. We have a phase out, but before that, just because I have picked up this topic, I'm going to jump on this area. So for the year, the Uncle Sam, or I can say IRS, they have said that there will be a transition period. For year 2025, we are not going to bring any kind of changes in your form W2. Okay, we are not going to bring any kind of changes. But from year 2026, there will be some changes. Now, in year 2025, whenever you are going to report any kind of tip, now, if you are recalling your previous requirements that we have certain L number below that we are not required to report it to the employer, we can directly report into a tax return, but now those things have been not been taken care. From 2025 onwards, you are going to report every single tip, no matter how what is the amount, you are going to report it to the employer. Now the employer, when they are giving you the W2 form W2, where these people are going to report, this is going to be very much important for the year 2025 as a reviewer as well as for the preparer. In W2, when you are receiving your W2 for the year 2025, your employer is going to report all your tips under box 14. Under box 14. Okay. And also they will be providing a separate written statement of whatever amount of tips that have been received by an XYZ employee. Okay. So point number A, when we are talking about 2025, which is going to be a transition period, at that point of time, there is no such changes in your form W2. In 2025, your employer as a tax return preparer, where you are going to observe, you will be observing your form box 14 other. Over there, you will be seeing whether any kind of tip has been mentioned or not. If yes, the employer will be providing you one separate statement where he is going to disclose out all the tips that has been received by the XYZ employee. Perfect. Okay. Now in year 2026, there are changes. What are the changes? Now, if you can see over here, this is your form. This is basically a draft. In year 2026, box 7, box 8, box 12, and box 14 are going to take place. Now, if you can see over here, we have social security tips, we have allocated tips, we have this is the old one, but we have to use it as well, which is your see the instruction box 12, and then we have treasury tipped occupation code. Exactly, for this side we have to mention 100s or 200s or 500 400s, whichever category you are following. Okay, the first thing that you have to notice from year 2026, when you are going to file the return in year 2027, that which code is going to be used. First point. Second point, the tip that you have to allow me a second. Social security tips. So whatever tips you are going to receive 26 and onwards, your employer is going to report it over here. Okay. Allocated tips, from my understanding, this is basically if you are receiving any kind of tip from a pooled tip. Supposedly you are working into a restaurant and the employer has made a pool where all the employees who are receiving the tips, they are putting in all that pool, and after a period of time, say monthly or quarterly or half yearly, the employer is going to bifurcate or distribute the tips proportionately to all the employees. At that point of time, your those tips are also called are qualified tips, and these are called as pool tips, and these are eligible for the deduction. At that point of time, from my understanding, what I can understand is that allocated tips which is coming from the pool tip are going to be disclosed over here on your box 8. So these are the new pointers that are being identified. One of them is your box number 7, then there is box number 8, and then there is box number 12. You have said one thing, 12 as well is going to be reported. Now what purpose box 12 is going to be used, we will be talking about in just a second. I will be showing it to you right now. Okay, now in box number 12 we will be reporting what sort of tip we are receiving. So if in box 12 we will be mentioning whether the tip has been a qualified tip. If it's a qualified tip, we will be reporting it as TP. Okay, but in box 12 if we have non-qualified tip because of what SSTB, then we will be mentioning it as TS. Okay, so over here we will be identifying, this is the entire crux or the entire game changer. Let me erase it. Okay, now let's say for example under 12 I have mentioned TP. Okay, and my and my tip is around $10,000. So this entire $10,000, because it has been mentioned TP, I can take the $25,000 maximum $25,000 deduction. Okay, but if it has been mentioned as TS, then I won't be eligible to take this $10,000 deduction. So this is the entire crux of the box 12, why it is being used or for what purpose it is going to be used. It is going to be used to identify whether your tips are going to be taxable or not, and if they are not taxable, what is the reason. This is the reason we will be using, whether it is a TP or TS. Now why the T has been used, why S has been used, I don't know. We will be asking government sometime. Okay, there's one more line. For employees in a non-qualified occupation or those working for an SSTB, the employer must use TTOC 000. This is basically something that has been identified, or there's another coding that has been provided by the Uncle Sam. Perfect. I hope I was able to make some sense. Now you are getting some grab the logic behind it, why the form, why the tip is being so much important in now in this particular time frame. Okay, moving ahead, we have a phase out as well. So if you are a head of household, or if you are filing as your married filing jointly, the phase out starts at $300,000, and if you are filing as as a single, your phase out starts at $150,000. What is going to be phased out if your MAGI, modified accelerated gross income, is over $150,000 for single filers, and for married filing joint or HOH. At that point of time, if your MAGI is more than $300,000, your phase out starts. Now, how the phase out works? It works in such a way that the deduction is reduced by $100 for every $1,000. Okay, so for every $1,000 increase into your MAGI, you will be reducing your deduction by what, $100. So I given you an entire scenario where your entire deduction for the $25,000 will be completely disallowed. Okay, the deduction is completely phased out at MAGI $400,000 for single filers and $550,000 for joint filers. So this is an important thing, but I don't think so we will be using that too much into our practical life, because the software is going to take place. But for the informational purpose, I'm sharing you with this thing, that when your phase out starts and where it is going to be ended. Perfect. Let's move ahead and see what we also have into our agenda. Now, the next element, there is another addition. First, previously we used to have, no, we currently have as well, we currently have schedule 1, we have schedule A. Now we have another schedule which is schedule 1A. Now this schedule 1A is specifically going to be used for what? For the calculation of your tips income. So straight away, your tips income are not going to be reported onto your form 1040. First, we will be reporting, or we will be reporting it on which form? On your schedule 1A, and then it is going to be moving, and then it is going to be transferred to form 1040. Okay. Similarly, we whatever the other incomes, or whatever other incomes we used to have, we do not report directly onto our page 1. We first attach a schedule 1 for all those kind of additional incomes, and then we move it to the form 1040 page 1. On the same lines, if you are receiving any kind of tips income, you will be attaching what? Schedule 1A over there. Part 1 will be there to calculate your modified adjusted gross income. Why we are identifying modified adjusted gross income? To check out the phase out. Okay. Once we have calculated our modified adjusted gross income, then in schedule, or in schedule 1A, part 2, the part 1 is for your modified gross income, and part 2 of same form, we will be reporting the tips, whether it's a qualified tip or whether it's a non-qualified tip, whatever tip we have received. So on 4A, we will be reporting what? We will be reporting qualified tips, which is going to be coming from W2 box 7. On B, qualified tips from form 4137, which is unreported tips. Maybe you did not report it to your employer, and then you are using 4137 to report it on your schedule 1A. Okay. Qualified tips from the self-employment. Okay, all those tips are going to be reported on your schedule 1A, 1-A. And then after being reported onto your 1A, it is going to be moving forward to what? To form 1040, and there you are going to take the deduction of your $25,000, maximum $25,000. Do remember, the deduction is available onto your page what? Page 1 of form 1040. The deduction is not available onto your schedule 1A. From the practical point of view, I am telling you that this is going to be a worksheet where you are going to disclose all of your tips income which you have received throughout the year. All the calculations you are going to be provided over here on your forms, on your schedule 1A, and then it is going to be moved forward to your form 1040, and over there you will be eligible to take the deduction of this $25,000, maximum $25,000. It is not going to be happen that you are going to take entire deduction. Okay. Now, is it possible that anyone can take the deductions of this $25,000? No, this is not going to take place for every single person. This is not available or applicable to every single person. Why? There are some disqualification as well. If you are into illegal services, or if you have ownership interest, then also you are disqualified. For example, there is a person who is a waiter, also he is having a ownership into that restaurant. He is disqualified from the deduction. Second of all, if you are into illegal services, now there is something very, very interesting that is going to take place. If you are into illegal services, for example, if you are into marijuana business, if you are unlicensed gambling business, or if you are into pornography system, pornography or prostitutions, then also this is going to be considered as what? Illegal services, and it is not going to take place. Let me tell you a very interesting thing. 99% of the people who are streamers right now, the gamers or streamers, these people, they used to open their YouTube, they play the video games they are doing the live streaming. And if you have observed, whenever the streamer, they have this thing on their left hand side of wherever it is, uh, they used to get a tip, and in that tip, the person who is giving the tip, he says, say my name. Those tips are eligible. Now listen to me very, very carefully. If a gamer is into gaming, he is streaming right now, and he's doing the live streaming, and he, on the chat box, he receives $100 as a tip just to say his name over the live gaming. Those tips are qualified for the deduction of $25,000. Perfect. But interesting, this is going to be very, very interesting. uh, I don't want to use the name, but still there are some og platforms where some explicit contents uh, are being channelized. And if you are going if you're tipping over there, if you're providing some tips over there, these are illegal services, and whatever tips that the streamer is receiving for those illegal activities, the OG kind of illegal activities, you will not be going to get the deduction of $25,000. The difference, you can see the difference. A gamer, he might be streaming just because of generating the donations to provide it to somewhere else. On the other hand, the OG people who are into the those kind of activities, they are getting the tips from the crowd. Those tips are not going to be taxable. Those tips are not going to be eligible for the deductions, and they are completely taxable from the taxation point of view. I hope I was able to make you understand. This is going to be very interesting, because we generally move forward with the traditional ideas. We generally move forward with the bars, bartenders, and all kind of things. But there is something which is live right now. YouTube is one of the channel where live streamers, then there are certain other platforms, OG platforms, where people are streaming live. They are they are getting some tips, extra tips, and all those tips are taxable. One more thing I would like to add over here. If probably you are using Instagram right now, and we have a subscription kind of model on Instagram right now, those subscription type of model are not going to be considered as tip. They are not going to be considered as tip, and the entire tip is going to be taxable from the very first day. Those are non-qualified. Even I would say they are not going to be entertained or not going to be disclosed or considered as tip income. They are straightforward income. Okay, so this is the three differences. This is going to be very, very practical in upcoming point of time, because US government is focusing on the online platforms right now too much. Many people are not disclosing their online incomes by any way. So this is the area, this is the very great or interesting area where people are, or where the US government is currently targeting. Now let's move ahead, and we have come to the final stage where we will be discussing about some of the examples for the better clarity of it. So one of the example is that, let's read these examples, and the interesting examples. Scenario 1, pianist. Performing art services is around your SSTB category, okay, versus hospitality distinction. Okay, a bartender works for a hospitality group that manages several hotels. Now, the scenario 1, the bartender works at hotel bar. Okay, the bartender is working at hotel bar. The tips are qualified because the employer is in a hospitality industry, which is a non-SSTB. So the bartender is receiving any kind of tip, he is eligible for your what, for the deduction of $25,000, which is, that is the example that I gave you, non SSTB versus what, the payroll, which is eligible. Okay, let me show it to you one more time. There we go. Non SSTB and payroll eligible for the deduction. Okay, let's move again. Let's see the another second scenario. The second scenario, hospitality group is a contracted to run bar at a professional theater. Now what is going to happen? We have two phases over here. This is your hospitality, HOSP, and this is your theater. Okay. Now the theater has hired the hospitality industry, hospitality, to run their bar. Okay. Now this theater is falling under SSTB category. Okay, the theater is in SSTB category. Over here we have appointed what? A bartender. Okay, there we have a bartender. Now this bartender is basically employed, where he's basically employed with the hospitality industry, which is a non SSTB. Again we will be, again this bartender is eligible to take the deduction for the tips. Now, third scenario, more clarity. The bartender is hired directly by the theater. Now, this theater, which is an SSTB, has hired the bartender. Now, if your employer is an SSTB, the employee is non-eligible. Okay. Let's take some other example as well for more better understanding. Okay. Marijuana and gray industry compliance. A worker at a dual purpose cafe and a cannabis dispensary in the state where both are legal. So in some states marijuana is legal, it is considered as what I can say, a medicinal purpose. So do not go over there and start taking those kind of marijuana just in the name of medicines. Now, tips received for the coffee services are qualified provided the cafe accounting is separate from the dispensary. Okay. Now dispensary tip received, the tips received for the dispensary services are disqualified as illegal services because of marijuana, because federal law says that marijuana is a illegal substance, you cannot use it. So if you are receiving tips for the illegal services, they are disqualified from the deduction of $25,000. However, cafe is not a federally offensive federal offense, and if you are getting services or you're providing services on which you are receiving tips, this is going to be qualified as your deduction. They are qualified as your deduction. The employer must bifurcate the tips on W2 starting 2026 using tip code. Which tip code? Because we have two tip code, TP and TS. So for TP, which is a qualified, and TS, which is an SSTB, which is, or I can say, the illegal substance, you cannot use it. Or for TS is also used for illegal services. Okay, so TS for the dispensary. And finally, let's go move ahead and for the final element. Self-employed gig employee interaction. A self-employed tour guide receives tips through a mobile app. Reporting, the guide receives form 1099K showing 60,000 in total payments, including 10,000 in tips. Okay. Because 1099K does not separately identify tips, the guide must maintain a daily log showing the date, amount, and sources of the tips to verify the $10,000 deduction. Net profit limits: if the guide's business expenses results in a net profit of $8,000, the tip deduction is capped up to 8,000 regardless of 10,000 received. So one more thing, for the self-employed person, for the self-employed people, your tip income cannot be more than your self-employed income. You cannot create a loss because of your tip deduction. Do remember this thing. So guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I was able to clear out major doubts or major concern for your tip income. Thank you so much. I hope you have enjoyed it.